Welcome to our Techie Night number 16. For those of you who don't know me by now, my name is Judith. I'm the Event and Relationship Manager at Silicon Luxembourg. And on behalf of my team, I would like to thank you all for being here today. I would especially like to thank the whole Byborg team for partnering up with us in the organization of this event and also for welcoming us at this space here. So today we're going to talk about cybersecurity, and we are very happy to welcome Jolt Fabian on stage in just a few moments. And he's going to present us a few case studies on how to navigate cybersecurity in startups funding. And then you have the possibility to ask Jolt a few questions afterwards. And then I would say it's time to enjoy drinks and food and network a bit. So I guess without further ado, Jolt, you can start the presentation.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for coming for the second time. Thank you, Byborg. Thank you, Silicon Luxembourg, for organizing. We have a nice companion article in the recent publication. Thanks for the weather. Absolutely. I would start with a little bit of introduction, what you can expect today, and then introducing Byborg. I will cut that part in order to have some time for the questions and answers. So I start my 40 minutes. Today, you will get some insight into how cybersecurity works from the buyer or the seller side in mergers and acquisitions, what you should expect from cybersecurity, scrutinization, and due diligence, and post-deal integration. I will give you some idea if your investor would like to buy into a breach or they would not like to buy into a breach. This might be the key message for today's discussion. I'm Jolt Fabian. I'm working with Byborg Enterprises as a group cybersecurity lead and leading all these efforts with a large IT security company. Hello, welcome. So let's start. Byborg is a premium online entertainment company operating in the digital space, reshaping how the human interactions are being done on the internet and finding new ways to do so. So we are an internet company. We are an ecosystem building with even more internet companies. We have a global reach. We have our headquarters in Luxembourg. We have offices in Budapest, Barcelona, Los Angeles, and many other places right now. So we are really globally distributed, so to say, but still an internet company. When I was joining the company first time, it was a startup, a high potential company looking to grow. Now we are a scale up and we are looking for other startups to grow. In last year, I had the opportunity to keep doing cybersecurity work in acquisitions. So I would like to tell you what we have learned from that and how you can leverage. So I'm going to do a technical talk, but before I'm doing so, I would like to introduce some relationship with the cybersecurity, with the startups, with the M&A, with the process, and with all of these things. So today, everything we are doing is cyber. We have a YouTube stream, we have computers, you have mobile phones. Literally everything you are doing today is online. So everything is affected by cybersecurity. When I was starting this profession, it was much more easier. Now it's much more complicated. So we have lots of opportunities to exploit, to leverage building digital relationships. Since you were attending to an event which is about startup funding, you know that valuation is everything for your startup. And valuation is also based on information. Cybersecurity is also about information. So information is everything. Maybe it's better. And if you are a startup, You're trying to survive. It's not about probably being compliant with anything. You have very limited resources, high pressure environment, and you would like to survive. And that's why it is interesting to talk about cybersecurity in a startup's life, because usually you just don't have that level of cybersecurity maturity. Still, since you're a founder and cyber is everything, you have to do something very practical. Since you are leading the company, you have to be the key driver for telling those messages to your team. You would need to have something very practical. In the case of a startup, it can be a few things. It can be something which is really hard to define as cyber hygiene, or someone else is phrasing this as security is in our DNA. It is really difficult to define cyber hygiene, what this practically means. I'm going to have a bonus slide and I'm trying to give some idea for you. As an entrepreneur, there is another factor that will be with you is managing risk, the risk of the unknown. So you have to be very good in that. Cybersecurity is coming with a number of risks and materializing a number of risks. AI is coming with risks that we don't even understand at the moment. So as an entrepreneur, as a founder, you have to be very good managing the risks. The other one that you would like to avoid is the penalties. These days, we have a quite well-regulated environment. Think about Digital Resilience Act, think about Digital Services Act, think about GDPR, PCI DSS, and all of these regulations that you have to comply with, otherwise you have to pay penalty that you would like to avoid. I believe that today this is one of the key motivators why cybersecurity is really important to somehow handle it practically. Talking about security in the Luxembourg startup scene is, I believe, timely. Data is from Silicon Luxembourg also. It's not that much, but it is growing at a pretty nice rate. So it is just timely to think about cybersecurity for startups. So yes, we are growing. So why cybersecurity matters in the domain of mergers and acquisition? Even if you are an acquirer or a target company, as an acquirer or even a founder, you might think about is it an IT problem? Is it a tech problem? Or do I need a very special expertise to deal with this? We are in the world of hyper-specialization, and every single day it's just getting more complex and complicated. How would you approach this? Hire someone. Hire some external ethical hacker guy. Sign up for a bug bounty program. Going with the advisory approach, going with the consulting approach. Which one will be good to me? You would think that if I'm not a technology-intensive startup, imagine a logistics company which is sending roses, like flowers to a destination address. It's already difficult, actually, but even them who are not technologically intensive, still on the internet, they use parcel services. They have probably a Google Drive that contains all their business models, all the customer data. Accessing these cloud systems, how they do manage all the deliveries, probably have a password of webshop 2020. It has happened to us. Still, even if your password is just webshop 2020, and I'm not a tech company then because I'm just sending flowers to destination addresses, you might suffer personal data breach. And then you have to pay the penalties that you would like to avoid. So now it's inevitable to deal with cybersecurity since you are using cloud services, you are using the internet. And even someone who is not a telco company, like when Verizon is buying someone else, or a hotel company who is buying another hotel, may buy into a breach. But from that point on, it is your problem if you are buying someone who have been breached, because then you have to pay the penalties. It is happening to small companies and it's happening to large companies as well. It's happening with every single sector. If you are an energy company and buying another energy company, like power lines, it might happen that if you was not maintaining a secrecy during the process, the system administrator will find it out that you are about to sell the company where he is the single one system administrator. He might lock your systems up, and then you will not be able to access it anymore, and then you will have to pay a cost to recover them. If one other big company is acquiring another big company, A and B, and they decide to open their networks together, company A might suffer from cybersecurity breaches because company B had viruses and malicious applications in their network that you couldn't imagine that they still have, like the I love you virus, the Conflicker. We have seen this because you want to integrate this into your ecosystem depending on what is your purpose buying or selling a company. You might think that if you are a fintech company, of course, fintech companies are regulated, technologically intensive, and they are managing some amount of money. It's even more important. It is even more difficult, but they are also very complicated. If you're a healthcare company, then you also have personal data. So it's independent from the technology intensities. You will be affected by cybersecurity issues sooner or later. So it's better if you are recognizing your cybersecurity nightmares before you are being affected. But it is not expected from a startup company to be mature in terms of cybersecurity. That's why it is difficult to handle. We are a more than 20 years old company. We have a large IT security team. We are still affected by lots of issues, but we are capable to handle this. Especially technically intensive startups like a cybersecurity startup who is managing passwords for you, I don't want to mention names, can be affected by cybersecurity issues because they are high value targets for attackers. That's why. So that's why it is important in general for different sectors. But how the process is looking like? When you start to deal with an acquirer, you will have to share some information in order to let them determine your valuation, because information is required for valuation. Probably it's about Excel files, books. It is going to happen via emails and pen drives, maybe. But in 2024, many people know that they shall not plug in a pen drive that they just received to their computers. Many years after landing on the moon, you would believe that now we have highly sophisticated, very advanced security systems to deal with these transaction matters. There are actually companies, virtual data rooms, who are providing you online services to upload and share your data. But at the end, when you are signing the deal, they are going to send you a nicely packaged gift box with a pen drive in it, so that you shall not plug in. Cybersecurity is more and more, according to some statistics, in the deal process. It didn't matter so far. Only the legal departments, the finance departments, the tax were involved. But now tech is involved, cybersecurity is involved. And with immature companies, there is no cohesion between these departments. So why the tax department would talk to the IT security? Why the legal would talk to IT security? So there is a cohesion required after you acquired someone and you have signed the deal. They all shall know some common narrative, why we bought this company and what we would like to do about them, because then all of these departments will not only need to do the due diligence, but the post-integration. And from your perspective, as the target company, you will just look that I have request set A from the legal, I have request from the tax, finance, tech, cybersecurity, and there is not a common narrative that you have to deal with. And it will be very intensive for you when you have successfully signed a deal and you are happy because you got funding. It still happens that your very secret, sensitive materials is just printed out on the acquirer's desk in an unlocked or placed in an unlocked drawer. So these basic information security matters, and forgive me about mixing up the information security, the IT security, and cybersecurity continuously, is a thing. A fun fact that since we have ChatGPT, both the target companies and the acquirers are using generative AI sometimes to fill information request lists. Information request list is an Excel file, a number of questions that you as a target have to answer, and based on that, the acquirer will try to evaluate your situation. Now they are using generative AI to fill those forms. On the other side, they are using this to evaluate those forms. So what is written, what is being said, and what are the technical realities might be three different things. That's why everyone started to be very meticulous about evaluating what information we can acquire from the target, what we see, not only the books. So at the end, why it matters and why cybersecurity is a necessity today is that the regulatory considerations, as I mentioned, you have penalties imposed if you're not complying with DORA, PCI DSS, GDPR, Digital Services Act, and the list will continue. This is the primary motivation why cybersecurity is so important. Secondly, as I mentioned and introduced the topic, to secure the deal-making process itself. You are about to share everything, the salaries, part of the source code, literally everything during the process. If someone is leaking this, then your business is almost over. You also have to take care about that you are sharing all of your information with the acquirer in a safe and secure manner, and then you can collaborate on that. On the other hand, from the buyer side, you have to know what you are buying. When you're only looking at the books and trying to figure out the valuation through pink glasses, every red flag is just a flag. So you have to obtain information from other contexts as well and other domains as well. Because if you do, and you make sure that you have some cybersecurity hygiene and you did your due diligence and due care accordingly, you can avoid terrible revelations. 10 years ago, in a nice summer, I was working with another company, not Byborg, and we were acquiring a cybersecurity startup who were managing passwords. During the process, we found that they were breached. All the passwords, all the user accounts, tens of millions. Approximately 10 to 14% of the original valuation was discounted. This was resulted maybe minus $4 million at that time. Minus $4 million because they found out that it was breached. It was breached 4 or 5 times later after the acquisition, by the way. According to my current knowledge, I'm tracking them. It's a funny, not funny story. So generally speaking, an acquirer would like to avoid regret of buying into a breach. You can see this from the other side, as I mentioned, that it can be a discount if they are buying into the breach. Most importantly, it's not even doing all this information, setting them a roadmap. Of course, it is important to develop some resilience in cyber, to develop a roadmap for them. But an acquirer would like to find the deal breakers. It is not only a cybersecurity matter, it is a matter for law, legal, tax departments. And they're also using some similar techniques like cybersecurity does, since cybersecurity is dealing with the cyber world, the internet, the digital, everything. Finding the deal breakers is a matter. So I would like to present this model at the top of my career that I could develop. So how this whole thing is looking like from a cybersecurity point of view, and this is where we start to go technical. Cybersecurity do a pre-assessment for you. That means that even before you are sharing any data, we can find out what is your risk profile, what we know about you from the public. Doesn't need too much resources. We can do this in a few days. Then we already have some feeling of what your potential threats and risks might be later, what we shall look into. I love this activity, the whole M&A for cyber, because it's much more creative and it's a bit like of art, because the process itself is not that straightforward or idealistic as someone with an engineering mindset would think. Welcome. So, because we have time pressure, don't have time to plan everything. The availability of the information is limited. Many times you have very limited amount of information that you can evaluate. The reliability of what information received from a target company is also very limited. And also the target company and the acquirer might have different interests when making a deal. So taking this into consideration, it is a very interesting art of work, how you are evaluating a target company as an acquirer and how you can present yourself as a very appealing target. So there are two main stages where cybersecurity is involved: is the due diligence, when I'm trying to get know you, and after we have signed the deal. Due diligence about getting all this information, which will be about the next slide. I'm going to present it in a more structured way. The post-deal integration, when I've signed the deal with you, I would like to acquire you and integrate you into my ecosystem. And we have to develop these roadmaps, start to talk and get to know each other much better and start to merge our cultures, maybe. One phase that is used to be forgot is the transfer. So when I decided to buy you and I would like to get, for example, access to the 30 of your cloud services, and then you find yourself in a meeting when you're about 50 and we are looking into a Google Sheet or Google spreadsheet with all the passwords in plain text. So whenever you are transferring, it is still part of the process. You shall consider not only sharing the information in a safe way during the due diligence, but also when you are transferring everything to the other side. It is your mutual interest, because the acquirer or someone insider from an acquirer might abuse that, or in the vice versa, other way around. So let's go a little bit into the details. I would call this cybersecurity, Röntgen. It might be tech Röntgen also. So what are the key components that cybersecurity can observe about you? Information request lists. As I mentioned, I'm asking you a number of questions and you are trying to answer them to your best knowledge. Many times, we just can't use this to evaluate because you're answering nothing, or you're answering something, or the target company answers something, that you can just evaluate. So you need to go for other sources of information. And maybe you are preferring those ones which are not actually told by the patient. Here, he would like to observe the patient in a different way in order to get to that diagnosis. What is the problem here? So that's why cybersecurity have to be very creative in how to solve this problem in a time-limited way, in a availability and reliability limited way. So the questions, it's okay. We can ask 40 questions, whatever. What are your X, epsilon, Z, and you can answer this or that. Many times you just cannot do an evaluation based on the short responses of the questions. Then you can observe documentations that you are asked. Give me your IT security policy, please. And I'm telling you a few examples, 3 very particular examples that is typical. Well, we don't have security policy. That's already a bad point. Even if you have the second case, when you have a short security policy, 10 pages long, 12 points, in each point there are 2-sentence statements. That's good. We like that because that means that in your culture or nearby, it is something that we can revive or there is something we can relate to. The problem with this is when you see that the date when it was last updated 6 years ago. So probably it is not active, but it's still better than nothing. When you say something in your security policy that for an internet company, our developers are coming together every second month for 1-hour workshop to discuss the cybersecurity matters. Okay, great. Let's see if you have notes or logs or anything about it. Oh no, we are not doing that for 6 years. Okay, let's try to restore this again because your company and your culture may be already familiar with that. So that's a good one. One other counterexample, when we are asking for your security policy and you are submitting 40 pages of policies translated into English and French. Problem with this policy is that it's not necessarily about that it doesn't state how long your password should be, but the date of creation was last week. So when you are submitting a nice looking security policy, but it was dated back to last week, we can sure about that it is not implemented. Well, we can work on that, but it is not implemented, so it is not actual in your current situation what we are about to buy. You can conduct interviews. That is a rainmaking conversation we can do with the company even within 4 hours. In 4 hours, well, interviewing in cybersecurity is a sub-profession. But we can relate to and listen to you in ways that we can immediately figure out room for improvement and your intentions, how do you see the things within the company. So interviews are a particularly good technique and it doesn't need too much resources. 4 hours is enough to come up with a list of the potential things we can deal with. So maybe that is one very nice thing to have, but while it's, as I mentioned, it might not reflect the technical realities in your organization's technical systems or computer systems. Hello, welcome. So the other things that we need not much interaction from the target companies, open source intelligence. Low companies are also doing this. Whatever documentation, contracts they have, or whatever information we have about the organization, your assets being exposed to the internet, we can look into that without interacting with you in a very passive way. And then we can learn a lot about that. These days, almost everyone is doing this. Looking into the news, the day before signing, we can find out if a big shareholder is involved in a criminal act, then it would raise a red flag. If you have a security policy written by someone, because it is redacted, we can find out who that CTO was for your company a few years ago, and we can find out that now he's working for some offshore companies doing the same sort of business that we would like to acquire, and it might rise an insight or a question if he was taking all the know-how with himself and the CEO is now just like to save his money. So internet doesn't forget. This is the key takeaway. And this is an actively used technique. We can do the so-called technical assessments like penetration testing, ethical hacking against your internet product. And what I can say, out of 10 projects, for example, my great team was able to hack almost all of them. So we could get customer lists, databases, vulnerabilities, remote code execution, whatever. Apropos, remote code execution is a technique for hackers to be able to do whatever they want on a system. So yes, then we can start an interaction working with you if you were able to detect it, if you were able to fix it. Then if it is a serious one, we can assume that we found this issue on the first day of our assessment if someone else before us were able to exploit this. So can you please show me if you are able to do a forensic investigation on your system if someone before us was doing so? It's a trick that works really well. We can do also specialized assessment as it requires for payment systems, for hardware, for interactive toys, whatsoever. So this is about the cybersecurity Röntgen part. What is the result of this? Is a score. Number 3. Okay, what does it mean? I like the traffic light model because it makes it really easy to communicate to the management. Green, yellow, red. We have a little bit larger score. Number 5, there are deal breakers. Black. You shall re-evaluate because we found something that is potentially breached. Number 4, red. There are issues that shall be remediated before you sign the deal. Many times, but approximately with 20% of the times while we are working, we find these sort of scores. The target companies are really open to discuss and fix things before signing the deal. The most common is number 3. We have a roadmap to be solved after signing the deal. And the other companies where we see security systems that are so great that we don't even want to touch them. So this is the score. We are generating approximately about hundreds of pages of technical reports for such deals, open source intelligence, technical assessment, interviews, whatever. But we have to summarize these into 3 sentences in order to get into the final acquisition report. Most important thing, if we can find breaches of customer data in a system, many times we are informing the target company's management that their email credentials and their email accounts were breached not only one time, but in this year, and in this year, and in this year. And please, before we would like to proceed, we would like you to change the password that you had. It's a quite common thing also, because we are looking into if your accounts have been breached, dear management. And of course, the most important one is a prioritized action plan after we are signing the deal in 60, 90, 180 days. What are the most pressing issues that we see that you shall implement in order to get your posture practically better? And we have one more thing, because a score doesn't say too many things, it is still a qualitative measure. We have critical risk dimensions. Now we have a little bit better visualization, but just to give you an idea, and it is completely arbitrary, we do have a number of things we are looking into to give a more granular view of why the score became that what it became. So we actually use this 7 at the moment, and we are doing these nice visualizations. Now a little bit better. Organization security, if organizational controls were implemented like SOC 2, SOC 3, privilege, principle of least privilege, segregation of duties, and many things. How seriously the management is understanding the risks that they do have, and if they have any systems to handle those, or they have any systematic way to do so. If the company is able to manage incidents, find security vulnerabilities, handle them, so if they have capacity to deal with them. For us, most of the time, we find, as I mentioned, we find vulnerabilities all the time. It doesn't matter. Everyone has weaknesses. But the capacity that you will be able to handle those are even more important. They have some security infrastructure, firewalls, antivirus, endpoint protection. That also gives a score, because that also key measure to the resilience of a computer system, obviously. How well the management is aware that they need to communicate to their team, because security is not the responsible of the techies, because security is responsible of everyone. So that's an important thing, how they do recognize the importance of this. Because if your social media manager is clicking into a link that he or she was not aware what he or she is clicking into, it might easily happen that in the next moment a hacker is taking over that Instagram account and is going to sell it for $600 back to you. That's a thing that you can address easily by just regularly communicating the most common issues, or not to fall into victim of someone impersonating your management. Because every time you are hiring some new manager, the attackers will look into the LinkedIn and they will try to spoof your new CFO, tricking people into giving out information and credentials. If it is an internet company, then platform security, how well application security, and these kind of things are applied with your computer system or internet systems if you are building an internet startup. This is a factor for us because we are working with internet startups. And the third part is the email marketing systems, the social media management, the content management, the whatever systems that you are using with the cloud is also a factor how well you can manage this and how well you are just inventorying them. Most of the companies are using cloud systems, the Google, the Amazon, the email sending, the Jotform, the MailChimp, the whatever. It is also a factor today if you are able to oversee on which third parties you are relying on. And that was it. So as a bonus slide, if you want to do something practical, the most important thing is to find out what the security objectives for you are. It is also difficult to define what is a security objective. I would say I will invert this and to try to find out what are your security nightmares. We don't want to be like Ashley Madison. We don't want to be like Mercedes-Benz has just accidentally leaked their source code to the GitHub. It was in news today. We don't want to be this, we don't want to be that. From these ideas, it is we don't want to have our customer data being sold on the black market. And then these are things that a security professional can rely to and implement many other things. Concentrate on practical things, not only on paperwork. When you are maturing, paperwork and process-based orientation is important. But being compliant with ISO 27K1, being compliant with PCI DSS, being compliant with this and that will not make you immune from being breached, which is the focal point of not having a discount in your valuation. You can focus on securing your social media to tie this to multi-factor authentication to phones. You can focus to send regular emails to your team. You can focus on hiring a security professional company doing some application security testing for your systems. You can consider access management or reviewing people's accesses in your system. We found companies who had access maintained for someone who has departed the company 6 years ago. And then that guy still have access to these systems. This is the source of the breaches. So it is also something very practical, which is also integrated in your HR activities, processes at that level. Everyone is working with cloud, but cloud is difficult. Everyone is doing the best effort using the cloud systems. It is easier to work as a startup a new company than taming a big legacy enterprise software that requires many people's work. Also to the awareness, HR and finance departments are not IT people, but they also need to share passwords, they need to share documents, so they also need to have something in their hands as tools to share information, to store secrets, to not to write passwords onto Post-it. We had an HR guy who was writing his password down to a Post-it, but he was making sure that he's not losing that, so he had another copy. Okay, and as I mentioned, everyone is relying on third parties, so that is important in the cloud world. So nothing is 100% secure. You have to do something practical with it. So that was it. I hope that you have many questions, and we have a few minutes left. We have these QR codes. This is the digital version of the article I mentioned at the beginning, my LinkedIn, and the Byborg Enterprises. Questions, please.
Thank you for the presentation. So my name is Sean Dietrich. I have worked on cybersecurity in Luxembourg. I made in 2019, just before the pandemic, a study on the startups. And I identified two things at that moment, that there are not many who have substance, 15 we have identified. You can find the article in the paper jam if you want. And that there are also some domains where we don't have startups. For example, secure code and security in the cloud, that have been the two categories in cyber where competencies are missing. My question, how do you see the local market, as you are the boss of the cybersecurity department of all the companies around Byborg, how you see the acquisition of new talents? How easy is it? How difficult? How many people are you losing? Are you bringing the people from outside? What's the situation of the market of expertise?
Thank you for the question. It is very difficult to hire. I have a particular example. The first position that the whole company is interviewing for, the most interviews we have is a chief financial officer. The second one is an IT security specialist. So it is very difficult to hire great talent. So you also have to invest into train your existing team. Particularly for cloud security, it is almost, I wouldn't say impossible, because nothing is impossible, especially with Byborg. But it is really, really difficult to get cloud security talent. We're not even talking about the compensation, just to find them. But with the companies we have partnered with in terms of acquisitions, recently we have seen very great developments. Also, guys on the other side, like in the Netherlands, from where we can also learn. So connecting talents from different teams and different departments is helpful. Adopting cultures like DevOps, DevSecOps, so someone is a developer, operator, and a security engineer in the same culture is also helpful. Was it an answer to the question? It varies. I hope that we will do more. We have itsec.lu domain name where we have some publication also, technical ones. Cybersecurity is a really growing topic in Luxembourg, I see. Other question, please.
I think I need the mic. You were talking about social media. I am a social media manager at Silicon Luxembourg, and I have two questions. The first one is the social media managers should have basic training on cybersecurity. And the second one is, do you have some to-go practices, like good practices, that all the social media managers, or at least the people who's like dealing with social media platforms, should apply in the moment that they are, like, for example, like me, working with a company's accounts?
Yes. definitely, it's even more difficult than hacking a system. So getting social media management with a group of companies, with a number of social media managers, is more difficult than hacking a system, I can tell. We are being challenged with this. We have pilots here since a year. I would say policy, but the number of best practices, evaluations, since as we are acquiring someone, we would expect them to harden their posture, how they do share passwords, onto which phone, a corporate phone or a private phone, the multi-factor authentication is being tied to, how they are sharing with Christian. He is overseeing all the social media accounts here. And it is indeed difficult. It requires training and it requires awareness because you just would not like to lose everything that you have built up in years. And it is difficult to coordinate it. It is not strictly cybersecurity, I would say, but it is a very difficult topic and it is difficult to get it right. We are challenged with that, absolutely. Other question, please.
Hello. Based on your really long career in IT security and your contacts and projects with other companies, how would you rate overall cybersecurity maturity level in Luxembourg in companies? And if it's not on satisfying level, any suggestions how it can be improved?
I'm not hacking other cybersecurity companies in Luxembourg, so I don't have a very practical point of view. I hope I can and we can. I'm not seeing into everyone's private life. What I can tell is my experience with what I have seen so far, not necessarily specific to Luxembourg internals. I would like to get into all the companies, if my honest intention, but it is not legal if I'm not servicing them. Probably because everywhere people are working and cybersecurity is difficult to get right, and there are a number of other priorities, timeliness, functionality, etc. Cybersecurity is most of the time not the first priority, and it is okay. But you have to have the capacity to deal with those issues. You cannot have systems 100% secure. Next question, please. There is
Thank you very much. My question is, many times companies, when they try to implement the cybersecurity policies or activities, there is always the risk that these policies and these practices are going to, I don't want to say paralyze, but to slow down the activities of a company because, you have many security requirements, etc. What would you suggest in order to try to find the best trade-off possible between flexibility of a company and high level of security?
there was an answer like common sense, but it is difficult to have the common sense as long as you don't have experience with what is going to happen if you ignore all the things. If you're not fastening your seatbelt in your car, probably you will not be killed on the first trip, but you have less chance to survive it. And I completely understand that implementing processes in a very strict way, when there is a maturity of an organization, not only in terms of cybersecurity, but in the way they do business, is making things difficult. A startup company is not working in a way like UBS Bank is doing.
Thank you very much.
How you can prove it? Let's have that discussion. How you can prove it that it is secure? Yeah, you can write a nice policy on the internet that everything is encrypted. We are compliant. Who is going to believe it? When they are going to do a due diligence, when they are having a service from you, you can also show them like technical reports that are giving them a more confident view that hackers were actually trying to get in, and that might be a better proof than if you are just writing that everything is encrypted on your website. We have seen breached companies who have, like Trello recently, who has very nice descriptions of how secure we are, or MailChimp, just another example. And everything was pretty nice. Everything is good, great sounding, great posture, but it's not the description of how things practically going on. That's why maybe you can get a penetration test or ethical hacker team to give you a report that you can present that it is a recent one. Someone was actually attempting to get in from an external point of view. You can also show a report depending on the size of your company. If you have organizational controls, so a developer is not accessing to everything, but even with maybe larger startups up to 60, 100 persons, maybe developers have access to production systems, and then they can do insider fraud. How do you prove that they cannot? So as you're growing, you can collect more and more evidences against yourself to prove that it has been tested, and we have proved and audited processes that it cannot go that wrong. There's no 100% security. I have seen another question. Thank you very much.
Can I?
Yes, please.
So you acquired many companies, and you said the average
Not me, my employer.
your employer, yeah. The average score, cybersecurity score, was 3. And what is the average score for those companies right now? Do you like close all the problems, or?
I would say 2/3 of the companies have issues that can be addressed after signing the deal, and 1/3 have issues that is a deal breaker, or they have to fix things before we sign, according to Byborg's risk appetite.
So you force them to solve it before acquiring, or you fix it after?
I wouldn't say that we are particularly forcing anything. We are nicely discussing. And usually, most of the times, they're very constructive with that.
So then the average would be the score average for those companies.
3.4. You cannot get an average because it is a qualitative measure. You can compare them, but you cannot calculate with them. So that's why, because it's not a quantitative measure, you cannot really average that. But from my good feeling, it is 3.4. If 5 is the worst.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And I would like to thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate your interest in cybersecurity. I hope that I could show you something today.
Okay. I'm just going to say a few last finishing words before we move over to the networking session. I want to thank you very much, Jolt, for the insightful presentation. And I want to again thank the whole Byborg team for hosting us at the location. And I want to thank you as well for joining us this evening. So I would say now it's time to catch a drink and to have a little bit of food as well, and to continue the conversation on cybersecurity in that area over there.